Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. It's here. Election Day 2024. In-person voting underway at the polls. And today's ballots will be added to the more than 78 million votes cast during early voting periods nationwide, including over 300,000 in Nebraska. Either way, history will be made. If Donald Trump wins, he'll be the first president since Grover Cleveland voted out of the White House, then back in. If Vice President Kamala Harris wins, she'll be the first woman ever elected president. As Laura Aguirre explains, elections officials are urging patience and calm on what's sure to be a long day of voting and ballot counts.
For president, 3 for Kamala Harris, 3 for Donald Trump.
It's a split vote in the nation's first ballots cast on Election Day in the tiny U.S.-Canadian border town of Dixville Notch, New Hampshire. Population 6. Polls are now opening across the country, rolling east to west over the next few hours. In Pennsylvania, the largest battleground state up for grabs, voter confidence is mixed.
It seems very trustworthy.
I dropped my ballot off, and who knows what's going to happen after this.
The state has been grappling with a turbulent early voting process that's seen claims of voter suppression and last-minute legal filings, described by one official as, quote, bad faith mass challenges. Officials there are working to reassure voters heading to the polls today.
Pennsylvania's election will be free, fair, safe, and secure.
The state's district attorney pulled no punches on potential disruptors.
Anybody who thinks it's time to play militia, F around and find out.
It's a message being echoed by fellow swing state, Michigan.
We comply with state law just like any other jurisdiction.
That goes for voters and poll watchers, too.
If an observer is not going to follow the rules, we will have them removed. We have that authority here.
Also key to the vote count, patience.
It will be sometime after midnight. It's just the reality of counting hundreds of thousands of ballots.
Counting will begin as early as 6 p.m. Eastern in some states, with the last 2 to close their polls being Hawaii at midnight Eastern Time and Alaska at 1 a.m. Eastern Wednesday morning. I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
A lot of interesting votes to be made today, including in far southeastern Nebraska, where one town will decide whether 2 village leaders remain in office. Brownville residents voting on whether or not to recall village board member Colleen Volkmer and board chair Marty Hayes. He's the equivalent to a mayor in that small community. There will also be a vote for 2 seats on the Brownville Village Board. Candidates Paul Fish and incumbents Carol Furness and Kim Johnson are running. Now, Fish also in court. He's asking for an injunction that would prevent the Brownville Village Board from spending funds he says were approved at a meeting last month. A complaint filed by Fish says board chairman Hayes and board members Volkmer and Furness voted in favor of funds to build an office for the village. But the complaint says there was no proper notice for the meeting. The court has issued a summons for both Hayes and village clerk Heather Pemberton. Nebraskans facing one of the most expensive elections in state history, including about $38 million raised, at least $32 million spent on campaigns involving 6 ballot measures. 5 campaigns have measures on the ballot, the most expensive being the conflicting measures over whether to amend the Nebraska Constitution related to abortion. The 3 other efforts revolve around medical cannabis, paid sick leave, and whether voters should repeal a recent state law that provides state funds to offset private K-12 school attendance costs. As of October 21st, the 5 campaigns reported having a total of $2.2 million in cash on hand. Almost $7 million came in the past 2 weeks alone. The largest legislative district by area in Nebraska will also have new representation after Tuesday. District 43 covers large areas of northwest and north central Nebraska and will be electing a new legislator to replace Tom Brewer, whose term limited. Casey Wannenberg visited with both candidates.
As you drive through the Sandhills, you can feel election season approaching. Some of the most common signs here are for the District 43 legislative seat. Tanya Storr, Tony Tangwall for the open position. We caught up with Storr at her family ranch south of Merriman, the same ranch that her great-grandparents homesteaded.
I am passionate about passing on opportunities to the next generation that we have been given. Wow.
That's why this mom of three says she wants to represent her district in the Nebraska legislature.
I've seen schools close. I've seen businesses close. I've seen ranches consolidate. I've seen a lot of change. And I'm just concerned about the next generation.
Tangwall says he doesn't have time for a video interview, but I did message him some questions. He believes he's best suited for the job because it's a servant's job, and he understands that to truly represent people, we must treat them with dignity and respect. If elected, he says his primary focus will be to make sure government is working for them, not against them.
Hi, girls.
Meanwhile, Storr says that if elected, her first priority will be lowering local property taxes.
I still firmly believe that our school funding formula is the key to bringing property tax relief back to especially our rural districts, which is pretty much all of what the 43rd district is. And as that formula has changed since 1990, our districts have lost almost every year. Lost state aid funding, let me be specific. And, if we could just get back the amount of state aid funding that we were getting 12, 15 years ago, we could see significant property tax relief for local taxpayers.
An election that will close the gate and open a new chapter for District 43. South of Merriman, Casey Wannenberg, News Channel, Nebraska.
The Nebraska Secretary of State's office is predicting that around 3 out of every 4 registered voters in the state will turn in a ballot, but some counties are confident they'll have a much higher turnout. In Cherry County, in north central Nebraska, about 70% of voters had already turned in their ballots by Monday. With many voting throughout the day on Monday and Tuesday, Cherry County's clerk expects one of the highest voter turnouts in the state.
The general elections are always higher than the primary for voter turnout, and also the presidential elections are always higher than the gubernatorial, so we expect it to be higher across the state.
Longcore says voter turnout has increased in the county dramatically since 2020, when the county switched to all mail-out ballots. In other news, a new program aiming to bring transformative change to end-of-life care in Nebraska correctional facilities. The Department of Correctional Services recently launched a hospice care volunteer program. State officials say that program will ensure that terminally ill patients aren't alone in their final moments. The first cohort of 16 volunteers has been selected from the Reception and Treatment Center. They completed 10 trainings delivered by healthcare professionals. Those trainings covered all kinds of aspects of hospice care, communication with patients and families, confidentiality, and end-of-life care and stress management. So in the program, volunteers will work with corrections team members and healthcare providers a few hours a day to address physical, emotional, and spiritual needs of incarcerated individuals who have a terminal diagnosis. Corrections officials say it will allow them to maintain employment within the facility and participate in the programming. And a northeast Nebraska park has been going through millions of dollars worth of renovations, and city officials say they're putting the finishing touches on those upgrades now. Hanky Hazelton has more.
As the town of Norfolk continues to grow with new visitors and residents each month, Parks and Recreation is doing its best to keep up with the demand of new things to do. With the ice rink almost finished and ready for skaters, they have decided to add one more unique project they think kids will absolutely love.
We have the nature playground is being built, which is down in what I call the bowl area. That is being constructed as we speak today. We got the sod all in. The grass is taking off up here where we seeded around the playground area. So we're very grateful that that was able to take, and we'll have nice grass for next year.
Like most parks, you have your traditional playgrounds. So if Johnson Park already has one, what makes this one so unique and unlike any other?
Down at the nature playground, we're using all natural features, real logs, real rocks. We want the kids to come out and climb on those and enjoy it. We have a water feature as well. We'll be able to, where they'll be able to play with the water and manipulate it into a little river through the rocks. And we want them to come and enjoy nature as is intended to be. And it's a different experience, but it's still that same safe play experience that we provide in the traditional playgrounds.
With the new playground features almost complete, this about wraps up Johnson Park's newest and other improved developments.
Behind us we have the fountain, which will have water going, and we're able to change the lights on the fountain. Kids can activate it, or parents can activate it with the push of a button.
We've got the river, the whitewater park that opened up back in June. We also have river lights, so that we light the river up at nighttime with the seasonal colors. We'll be turning on yellow and orange tonight, in anticipation of getting ready for Thanksgiving.
As we mentioned before, the ice rink should be done by Thanksgiving weekend, and if all goes well according to plan by PJ and Nathan, they said residents should be able to see not only the nature playground, but all the other projects they've been working on over the year, done by December 1st. In Norfolk, Hanky Hazelton, News Channel Nebraska.
And you can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to News Channel Nebraska, click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Don't forget, we'll have live Election Day coverage on News Channel Nebraska Tuesday evening, starting at 9:30 Central Time, 8:30 Mountain. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.